We do a lot of R&D for new dishes, and honestly 95% of the things that we sort of like figure out, okay, let's do this, 95% of the time it's bad. Only that 5% ratio is what comes in the menu. Those mistakes are really important for us, right? Because if I wouldn't have done those 95% mistakes, I wouldn't have learned to rectify and be in that 5% bracket to put it on the menu. Perception of Indian food around the world, it's very different, right? People are looking at Indian food in a very sort of box situation, right? Where you put 4 dishes and you say, okay, this is what Indian food is, right? But also at the same time, I think this is the most exciting time for Indian food industry and for restaurants and for chefs and for restaurateurs. Why? Because the narrative of Indian food is slightly changing. So that's why what we all are doing at our respective restaurants, it is very, very important, right? Because the narrative is changing, it's shifting. So we need to keep pushing boundaries so the narrative like changes to this like cuisine which is full of heritage, full of history, full of culture and full of flavors, importantly, right? People are looking at Indian food and talking about regions, right? They're talking about sub-regions and cuisine of those sub-regions, right? So I think the conversations have changed, which is great, but I think that's not enough. I think coming into hospitality, rather cooking, it was a fluke. And I wanted to be a commercial pilot, and I still want to be. I don't know how that will pan out. I was about to enroll into the commercial pilot course, and there was a time lag. So I thought, okay, why not join this, see what it is, and then, pursue that. Sometimes things do happen to you, and of course those things are, meant to be. I just fell in love with everything that I did there. Sundays we used to go for picnics. So we used to live in Baramulla. We would drive down to Srinagar, rather take a bus, the Shalimar Bagh in Srinagar, and do these like family picnics. Plus there'll be neighbors, friends, family, and we'd all sit around and everybody, so it's like a potluck situation, right? So everybody would get their food and we'll all have lunch. I think that's the earliest memory if I can think of. I remember in Baramulla where we stayed, and we had this like a big backyard, and where, I still have that picture. There would be corn, there would be haq, so like kohlrabi all the time, palak, there'll be nettles would grow. We talk about seasonality. It was very seasonal, eating different varieties of haqs in every season. August, September, that's the time of apples. We would eat like this seb ki sabji, right? Or bamchunt, which is quince ki sabji. I feel we were very lucky in that part of the world, which is Kashmir. We were just surrounded by abundance of like ingredients, be it wild, be it fruits, be it vegetables, food from the forest, you name it. And I think that part of India is just magical. Because India is so diverse, right? I think partly because the attention was never on Kashmir. The attention on Kashmir was always because of other reasons, not on food. So, but I feel like it's one of the most uncelebrated cuisine within India. Be it the kind of ingredients that you get. People talk about Wazwan a lot, but people don't talk about the kind of vegetarian food that is prevalent in Kashmir. The cuisine is beautiful, and plus the ingredients, plus the spices, and people also associate Kashmir with a lot of spicy food, which is so untrue. people don't talk about the bread culture. And I keep saying this, the bread culture in Kashmir is as good as I can compare it to like France. Boulanger concept, we have the Kandar concept. So there's no concept of making breads at home. There's no concept of chapati, there's no concept of parantha, aisa kuch nahi hai, right? We eat rice, but we will never make rotis at home. Obviously things have changed now. So we'd always go to a bakery. So we have morning breads, we have evening breads, we have special occasion breads, and then we have miscellaneous breads. I moved back to India in 2013. You know, when I moved back, the dream was always to, have your own restaurant and do the food that you really believed in. And I moved back, obviously with that dream in my head and in my heart. I joined Leela's, and it so happened, it was just that one moment you were waiting for. And then when that happened, things started falling in place. In different stages of my life, right from when I started cooking till now, I think there have been so many people who have touched my life with their insights, mentorship, or just looking up to them. So for inspiration and for so many other things. When I started cooking at college, my professor Navdeep Sharma, like, he would give me books, he would take printouts at that point of time, go to cyber cafe and do printouts and show me the menus of the chefs from all across the world, and he would tell me, बस पढ़ ले इसको, समझ में आएगा, मुझे पता समझ में नहीं आएगा, but just read it. It's very important for you to know what's going on in the world. I studied in CIA. I had two sort of mentors there, David Bruno and John Riley, and getting coached under them was this amazing thing, and so on and so forth. I mean, I think there were so many people who have touched my life through cooking at different stages of my life. I think the most significant memory being at Noma was, working at that kind of restaurant. There's enormous pressure. There's a demand for excellence, like every single minute. But for me, it was that restaurant single-handedly changed perception of Copenhagen being this like a dull and boring city to the food capital of the world. And I think that's amazing, and at the same time it's very powerful also to do that. My cooking style, there are multiple facets to it, I would say. It's freestyle, putting a spotlight on Indian ingredients and looking at Indian food through a very different lens. I think these are the points I would say can describe the entire cooking ethos and my style. I draw a lot of inspiration from the roots, which is from Kashmir, and I draw a lot of inspiration from anything to do with India. It can be a technique to a cooking style, pickling or preservation. We're trying to preserve traditions at the same time, but yet, we're looking forward, at the same time while we're looking back. You see, all those experiences, see, when I talk about my cooking, and I keep saying it's very rooted, yes, but at the same time, it's also the sum of my experiences that I've done, right? Yes, it's rooted, but also at the same time, we have so many techniques that I've learned from, my experiences throughout. We did put a spotlight on Kashmir using different ingredients, but the main ethos is always putting a spotlight on Indian ingredients, right? And telling the world the story of Indian food through ingredients. And I think that was the main vision. It's a very collaborative effort, and I think that's the beauty of it, Although the idea is to pursue this like excellence, which is very subjective at the same time, but when we start talking about those dishes, I think there are different levels that we talk about. We were talking about quince, right? Bamsoot. In Kashmir, we eat it as a savory. It's a fruit from apple family. In Kashmir, we eat it as a curry, right? We make sabji out of it. But that sabji, when you eat it, it's sweet, it's sour, it's spicy. So I think we break down it into three flavors. Okay, in Kashmir, when we eat this with rice, these are the flavors that we are looking at. We ask a lot of questions. Why do we need to make it savory? Can we make it sweet and arrive on those flavors? Okay, yes, why not? It's still very Indian, very rooted. Okay, let's figure out a dessert. Let's use quince as a dessert, but arrive on those sweet, sour, spice flavors with a dessert combination. So what we did was we made a jam out of quince, which was sweet and sour. We made a sort of a granita with kava, cardamom and cinnamon and saffron forward spice, and then we made an ice cream with just plain quince. And we topped up with the caramel made with chas. So I mean, the flavors are very familiar, but you take a different, like a totally different route on that. So in Kashmir, we eat a lot of Rogan Josh, but we did a seafood version of Rogan Josh, like a mussel Rogan Josh. My favorite foraging tour is always towards the Himalayas. A, I love mountains, and B, like mountains give you abundance of produce. Every year or every few months, we always find these like new amazing ingredients to work on. Like this berry from Ladakh, which is sea buckthorn. And we have done so many like variations and alterations to it. We made kala khatta out of it. We have done like a pre-dessert. We have used it in fish. We have used it with lobster. Like these foraging trips, you just, the biggest learning also is that, you see India, it's a very different India as far as food is concerned, completely, right? The best reviews so far. I remember this elderly couple, I think they were early 70s, and they were visiting Bombay. And thrice in a row, they were here for 3 days, and I met them all 3 days, and that elderly couple was like, we have so much, we have eaten all over India, we have a sense of Indian food, but I mean, this is the best meal of my life, and I don't know when I'm going to come back, so I just wanted to make the most of it. So hence we are here for 3 days. So I mean, moments like those are, are just magical, and you really can't put those things in words. So yeah, so for me, those things are the best. I relate to a panda, and panda is my spirit animal, it's my soul animal. I just love pandas. There's no long story to it, but he loves to sleep, eat, and relax, and I think I can relate to that. Although I do get very less chances to be a panda, but whenever I get a chance, I'm always a panda. I'm very happy. And I'm very proud of the fact that as a team, what all we have achieved together. Me and my team had this opportunity to do something which is authentic, magical, and full of purpose. And for the last 5 years, I think I'm really proud of what all we have done. To me, food superstar means a person who is innovative, breaking barriers, constant innovation, reinvention, cooking some delicious food at the end of the day with all these things put together. Things always happen to you, good or bad, right? Things happen to you with a purpose. I got laid off within a day's notice. You're living off like a day's budget, right? And I was just, I think that was very low point. I moved from DC to New York. I was at a metro station and I met a friend, and things started, flowing for me professionally, right? And then that one meeting changed a lot. Had that one meeting didn't happen, and had my job in DC, things would have been very different.